What is victory? What does a triumph represent? In ancient times, victory was associated with the experience of glory, whether in its religious or secular form. The Jewish prophet Isaiah defined victory in connection to harvesting or hunting as a moment of joy, prefiguring the full manifestation of God. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as they exult when dividing the spoils. For ancient Romans, victory was associated with military triumphs and was expressed through the rituals of a parade celebrating a general's feats and his apotheosis to eternal remembrance or even a divine state, as Ovid claimed for Caesar in the concluding book of his Metamorphoses. Caesar in urbe sua deus est. Caesar is a god in his city. Immortality was the effect of military victory, but also of artistic glory, as boldly stated by Horace, who confidently claimed to have built with his hodes a monument more durable than bronze. In medieval and early modern times, victory was seen as a progression of self-overcoming steps toward a final goal. In lay terms, Petrarch expressed it in the form of the triumphs, reinventing the Roman military victory parades in an allegory celebrating his climactic journey from love to chastity, from death to fame, from time to immortality. In religious art, the end of this journey, the celestial vision of God, took form around the idea of majesty, as we see in Duccio da Boninsegna's altarpiece for the Cathedral of Siena, and of glory in connection to light, as we see in the end of Dante's Divine Comedy or in Bernini's Baroque staging in St. Peter's Basilica. In our modern age, the transcendent idea of victory as an eternal moment of collective significance seemed to have lost ground. In the military sense, the advent of gunpowder weapons and later long-distance arms of destruction made feats in battle less dependent on individual heroism or collective virtue. One-on-one duels, like the epic fight of Achilles with Hector, are no longer needed to win a war. And what is left of the knights of once upon a time, or the aristoi, best ones in Greek, is a nominal sense of chivalry or aristocracy. In the broader sense, the modern notion of progress secularized time, eliminating the idea of a final destination and constructing the present as an ever-moving time of self-overcoming, change, passage, break, or revolution, to use some of the most common metaphors. The loss of eternity, epitomized in Milton's Paradise Lost by the idea of the fall, is parallel to the loss or the emptying of the sense of feast, as a separate time conveying meaning to ordinary daily life. The 19th century poet Giacomo Leopardi voiced this sense of alienation toward village rituals and celebrations by depicting himself as an isolated sparrow. And like him, the 20th century writer Cesare Pavese expressed the unease related to a lost sense of fullness expressed in feast through the portrayal of unsatisfied characters, self-excluding from bourgeois parties. To give you a sense of how much we have lost the idea of the feast as the expression of collective fulfillment, I invite you to think of the last time such a communal triumph, victory, or glory took place over the past decades. You might probably list the celebrations for the end of World War II, for moon landing, or for the fall of the Berlin Wall, epitomized by the Pink Floyd's memorable Wall concert. As an Italian, for me, it would be impossible not to think of the 1982 and 2006 victories of the national soccer team in the World Cup. Probably the sense of collective uplifting and belonging and the ever-enduring tears that certain sport feats continue to evoke are the closest things to the experience of victory or glory that we described at the beginning. But what does victory look like then for us? How is achievement staged? What rituals express it? Sports, in a way, have sublimated the previous military imagery, reinventing the hero as the champion, epic duels as team rivalries, and military feats as victories or halls of fame. In another way, however, sports have also introduced a new element in the trophy and a new highly codified ritual in the medal ceremony. If you think about it, victory for us moderns is the cup or a medal. It is the cup which has the power to gather us all, first in the pursuit of a desirable goal, competition as searching together, as in the Latin cum petere, and then in the sharing of rejoicing, dividing the spoil, as we said earlier. It is the cup which allows us to touch and see the invisible idea of victory or glory. It is the cup that gives us the hope to transcend our achievements beyond our ephemeral present, maintain their memory over time, and raise them to eternity as expressions of a collective celebration, as in the ancient idea of apotheosis. Now, I'm pretty sure you have seen at some point the most recognizable cup of our time, the FIFA Soccer World Cup, but you might not be aware that its creator was actually Italian, the sculptor and designer Silvio Gazzaniga, the protagonist of today's episode. Gazzaniga was born in Milan in 1921 and was trained as a goldsmith and jeweler in the city's Humanitarian School of Applied Arts. He began his career as an artist, sculptor, and designer during World War II, working on the creation of medals, cups, and commemorative medallions for various clients. In 1953, he became art director and master sculptor for the Bertoni Company, where he developed his skills as an eclectic bas-relief designer. His work achieved international fame in 1971, when FIFA accepted his proposal for a new Soccer World Cup. The old cup, awarded to the winners of the FIFA Soccer World Championship, was the Rimet Cup, named after the president of the federation, Jules Rimet. And according to the regulations of the time, it was to be definitively bestowed upon the first nation to win 3 World Championships. In the 1970 World Cup in Mexico, 2 nations who had previously won 2, Italy and Brazil, met in the final game, and the victorious Brazil took it home forever. An international contest was then launched to all artists of the world for the creation of a new cup. Gazzaniga participated in the competition, presented not simply a design, but a 3-dimensional model in plasticine, as a way to give judges the possibility to touch his cup. Out of the 53 proposals from 25 different nations, FIFA selected Gazzaniga's work, and his sculpture became the new official World Cup, moving from the hands of the committee members to the hands of Franz Beckenbauer, captain of the West Germany team, which first won it in 1974, and then to the hands of all the captains of all the winning teams up to now. Daniel Passarella for Argentina, Dino Zoff for Italy, Diego Maradona for Argentina, Lothar Matthäus for Germany, Carlos Dunga for Brazil, Didier Deschamps for France, Cafu for Brazil, Fabio Cannavaro for Italy, Iker Casillas for Spain, Philippe Lahm for Germany, and Hugo Lloris for France. Because of the trophy's fame, FIFA actually voted in 2006 to no longer assign it to the first team reaching 3 victories, but rather to use it until 2038, when all the engraving spots for the winning nations will be filled. Okay, the FIFA World Cup is an iconic trophy, but did you ever wonder what it is made of and what it represents? Let me describe it for you. The cup is made of 18-karat gold and is hollow inside. The 2 bands of green malachite at its base bear the engraved names of the winning nations in their respective languages. The subject of the cup are 2 stylized footballers who support the world in happiness and triumph. Now, in order to appreciate Gazzaniga's creative design, I want you to take a step back and imagine yourself at his desk, in his shoes, in 1971, in the months preceding the FIFA contest, pondering the questions he might have asked. How would you design glory? So far we have discussed victory as an experience, a state, or an abstract concept, but what form would you give to it? Gazzaniga chose to design his trophy around three fundamental concepts: the word, the triumphant athlete, and the effort required to achieve victory. The sphere on the top, featuring the relief of the continents and visually assimilating the earth to a ball, reflects the universal value of soccer, gathering all the nations in a common quest. The triumphant athlete represents, in the artist's words, a man that victory has transformed into a giant without taking on the role of superhuman. So the idea of doubling him in two figures, raising their arms up in joy, lifting the world with enthusiasm, is actually meant to transfigure the personal achievement into a moment of collective harmony, peace, and freedom. Lastly, the energy, vigor, effort, and commitment that is required to achieve in sports finds plastic expression in the helicoidal movement of lines from the bottom to the top of the globe, as well as in the rough material between the two opposing faces of the trophy. Such dynamic tension of the sculpture then gives the trophy a peculiar momentum, ideally prolonging the lifting gesture of the captain to an upward horizon or a transcendent dimension of victory itself. In terms of execution, one element made the trophy distinctive. While many cups are commonly made of polished slabs, Gazzaniga opted instead to model metal manually, fusing it with ancient techniques and shaping it dynamically against the backdrop of his avant-garde formation. This pursuit of the individual gesture and artisanal manufacture in the crafting of a trophy, as opposed to a standard production, is a trademark of his style, and also the innovative element that makes his company GDE Bertoni an indisputable leader in the field. The quality of execution of his craftsmen and the deliberate aesthetic charge giving dynamic rendering to sports values explains why GDE Bertoni is the signature behind important trophies like the Soccer UEFA Cup and European Super Cup, or the baseball and volleyball World Cups, or medals for international competitions in basketball, swimming, and skiing. As a further testament to Gazzaniga's innovative style, in 2011, on the occasion of the 150th anniversary of Italy's unification, the President of the Italian Republic commissioned him to design and create a celebratory trophy for the winners of the year's three most important sports events, so the Cycling Giro d'Italia, the Italian Football Cup, and the Formula One Grand Prix in Monza. The cup, made of silver, expressed the dynamism of the nation's unity through the progression of 8 stars and their respective beams of light toward the turreted crown on top of the sculpture, in homage to the traditional iconography of Italy as a woman holding towers on her head. Gazzaniga's accomplished synthesis of craft and industry, art and entrepreneurship is also made manifest in the recognitions awarded to him before his death in 2016. Including, among many, the title of Commander of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic for artistic and cultural motives, the Ambrogino d'Oro, the highest certification of the city of Milan, and the Career Award from the International Numismatic and Medalist Association. Although his production mainly focused on trophies, medals, and cups, I want to briefly add here 2 important commemorative and sculptural commissions. The first is the 1961 monument to fallen motorcyclists in Civenna, expressing the self-challenge and falls of motorcyclists, mechanics, tourists, and runners in pursuing records through the image of a stylized helicoidal flame. The second is the 1955 cast silver reliquary of St. Anthony of Padua, created by Gazzaniga on the 800th anniversary of the saint's birth. Another monument visited by pilgrims around the world, which also aspires to give form to a global experience. It is because of his capacity to give visual and plastic form to universal values, as well as of his impeccable technical execution, that Gazzaniga and his works became famous worldwide. The success of his products and his company in Paderno Dugnano near Milan consists in the Italian idea of technique as an art of doing something well, so the craftsmanship, diligence and mastery of his workers, but also as an art of doing something with meaning, so the aesthetic dimension, turning mere metal into a tangible cultural concept. His tireless work and creative imagination are the two symmetrical faces of his success, perhaps like the two mirroring athletes that on his cup he chose to signify the joy of individual and collective achievement. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Italian Innovators YouTube channel or to the newsletter on the webpage www.italianinnovators.com to receive notifications of new episodes, the lessons of the Italian Innovators course, and updates about my online lectures. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for additional materials about the show. Thanks again, arrivederci e alla prossima!